Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome in for our first look at the Tour Championship here on a Monday morning. It'll be our last first look show of the season. A little bit of break on the first look side, though we obviously will continue on with everything golf related here at Betsperts Golf throughout the swing season. Guy Ron Kloss, PJ Splits 101, driving the ship there specifically in the off season. Football becomes king, especially in my world. Football becomes king for Ron too. He is dying with his Lions this year. I know he's ready to go for football season too, but one more big dog here at the top. Ron, Tour Championship, what's going on?
Yeah, it's winding down. I know it was exciting to see the BMW. For me, personally, the course is just something I loved. I know some people thought, it might be a birdie fest, might be, a lot of low scoring numbers, but I just think something about the altitude and guys just having to make that adjustment. And then I think the rough, was really penal more than most expected. And so, seeing that finish at, 12 under, I really loved, the course, beautiful to watch on TV. And I'm really hoping they go back there. But your boy Keegan comes through. And that was, it's just, I guess that's one of the good things about the FedEx playoffs is, he barely scrapes in. Number 50, last guy in, and then he comes the next week and he wins. And so that was fun to see.
It was. I could not agree more. Echo all the sentiments about the course. Just first of all, just mix it up. I love the fact that we mix it up with the BMW a little bit. I selfishly prefer that it stays, in the Chicagoland area. Because it's accessible to me to attend a little bit easier than Castle Pines, but it showed like I thought it would, and I thought the elevation elements brought in a new feel for that, which I thought was fantastic. Again, we push back on all the things, and this is the Tour Championship. I think is the culmination of it, and just the attempt to do playoffs in a creative way it's a struggle, and I don't know. I feel like some match play element would be fantastic, but I think until they find a great way to do match play, I think, going to unique tracks that we don't go to, I like what we saw last week in Memphis, but can we do Memphis at a different time maybe? Or do we have to go to Atlanta here for East Lake for, the culmination of the season? It would be a great time to head back to California and play Pebble or something like that. So, the courses that we just don't see all the time. We have so many great courses in this country, a lot of nice courses in the Northeast. I like, mixing it up a little bit. And, Castle Pines, I think delivered. I think Altitude Golf delivered. We thought it would be aesthetically pleasing on the TV. It delivered in all those different ways. And I thought it was a great event. It is interesting to see, the 3X on the FedEx Cup points thing for the tail end of the season too. You want to reward late season playoff play in some sense. But now we have a situation where, Keegan, like you said, makes it in basically on the number. He's the 50th guy. Now he's fourth, right after a win. So it is definitely I don't know if that's the right way or the wrong way. It's hard to say that Keegan's had a better season than, Rory's won 3 times around the world this year. Colin Morikawa hasn't won, has been playing really good golf. It's an interesting way to do it. I don't know how the right way to do it. Again, mixing up the courses. Let's not go to East Lake every year. Let's add some sort of match play would be fantastic. But at the same time, is match play 18 holes heads up a great way to reward Scotty and Xander for the year that they've had? Probably not either, right? So there's no perfect way, but at least we're going to a revamped East Lake. It's not the same thing that we've seen in years past. I think that's the important piece as we kind of dig into that before we do, and just want to show people what we're talking about if you are unaware somehow, which is weird. You probably wouldn't be watching this show at this point of the year if you're unaware of how this works, but just to show you, this is a unique piece in terms of what we have going on here for the Tour Championship. We have a sliding scale for strokes. Scotty Scheffler starts -10 for the week. He starts 10 strokes above the back end, basically 26 through 30 here. It's just a 30-man, no cut event. He starts 2 strokes ahead of Xander Schauffele, who is at -8. And you see here on the screen, Hideki at -7, Keegan at -6, and Ludwig at -5, and then you get clusters there in terms of who starts where. We've historically seen guys towards the top, win this event. It feels like 7 shots back's probably a bridge too far in terms of winners. Right now, we only have starting strokes out there in the marketplace. Looking here at our friends over at FanDuel, you can see Scottie Scheffler, basically even odds, +100 to win the golf tournament. We typically do see a without starting strokes market emerge. Again, as of Monday morning when we're recording this, we don't have that yet, but I would expect to see it here at some point. Most books, or at least, usually FanDuel and DraftKings at least get involved in that market. So, if you wanted to bet this just as everyone starts at 0, 30-man, no-cut event, we should have the opportunity to do that here. But you can see somewhat of the order in which the starting strokes are is kind of where we're at. Scotty, Xander, Hideki. We get a little bit of a gap. Keegan falls back a little bit, but then you see Rory, Oberg, Morikawa, Cantley kind of there in the next tier. So, a unique betting event, kind of a garbage betting event in terms of how to go about this, especially in this market. But we got to play the hand we're dealt, Ron, and this is what we get so far. So, any thoughts on the format or kind of how to approach like betting overall from an outright standpoint this week?
It's real tough to to do this current market like we're looking at on the screen right now. So yeah, I think for me, it's always been kind of a winner without the starting strokes involved. And so, yeah, I mean, I think Scotty this week is just, obviously he's unbettable at that number, but his frustration, we saw it on the course, we know he doesn't want to end the season this way, with his competitive fire that he has. And so, I can see him just bearing down this week and, just kind of laying the boom on everybody. And again, you got, it's almost like a 1-2 race, with him and Xander and, Hideki, who knows what's going on with how serious that was. Perhaps he just wanted a week to rest and prepare for this week. And you never know with Hideki what's really going on behind the scenes.
He's a one of one for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you got some guys sitting there, at 4 under who are 6 shots back, who, there's some firepower there, obviously, with Rory, with all his success here. And obviously, some guys like Morikawa who can get over the hump, and, Wyndham, Sam Burns, Sam Burns can really light up the scoreboard when he gets hot. And so, yeah, I think that's about as far as I would go, is that, that little group there of 5 golfers who are 6 back to start with. But yeah, other than that, for me, it's just a hard week to narrow something down when I think Scotty and Xander are going to kind of separate themselves, even in the without strokes market.
Interesting thing here, this is the 3rd straight year where Scotty comes in at the top of the board and is yet to take home this prize. A couple years ago, really had it in his hands, and Rory came and snatched it away. Last year, just Hovland was just absolutely dialed in, and that kind of continued when he got here. And Xander has historically been the king of Eastlake. His course history here is immaculate. And then I think that's what takes us to the next piece, is that, what do we do with course history? Because we've undergone a massive renovation here, right? Basically the entirety of the course stretched out a little bit longer, greens redone. They wanted to really incorporate a lot of variety in the shots of the golf. It's a spot where I think it's going to be really hard to bank on course history. And maybe that's an edge this week where people are banking on, Xander with his immaculate course history. This is a spot that Rory's historically come and played really good golf, as you just referenced, stealing it from Scotty, a place where Scotty hasn't played good golf. Still Zoysia fairways, Bermuda greens, some different around the green complexes. You want to touch on some of the things that we're going to see here with this Andrew Green renovation. And again, no golf's been played. I believe I read from your profile early this morning. They haven't played any golf here since the last time we were here. So we're seeing it really for the first time. We haven't had anyone boots in the ground to get any feedback on how it's played.
Yeah, Andrew Green. So he's the same guy who renovated Oak Hill for the PGA Championship last year, and he's done a bunch of courses and he's done a lot of great work in different places. But he was brought in to do pretty much a complete restoration of the course. And so, their goal, as is the case when they do these, is to kind of, obviously this is a Donald Ross course, 1913. And so, trying to recapture kind of that golden age of Eastlake, even. And there was a lot of other work was done after he built the course. And so kind of, they used the 1940s aerial photo of the course. And so kind of trying to take it back to that time frame. And yeah, it's pretty much remaking everything from the roots up. So, hundreds of trees removed, every square inch of turf was replaced. And, I think the key quote here is, Andrew Green himself said, nothing is the same, not a single golf shot on the property. And so, the routing of the holes is still somewhat very similar. I know some tee boxes have been moved. They're trying to create more angles off the tee to make, off the tee a little more challenging. But overall, the Bermuda grass, it's a different blend of Bermuda, but like you said, that's the same. We still have zoysia. It's a different kind of zoysia where the fairways are going to be a little firmer, so they're going to get a little more rollout. And so, I think for me, course history is not going to be, obviously this is a course where, there's only 30 golfers every year anyways. And yeah, a lot of the same guys are here that were here last year and years past, but I don't think looking at course history is going to be too beneficial based on everything I'm reading at all.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree. It sounds like that's not going to be a thing. And I think there's going to be some commonalities to how it played in the past, but it doesn't mean that I would rely heavily on course history specifically, maybe still banking on some of that skill set that mattered. So before we jump into the specifics here and start to model some stuff here, again, last Monday morning first look show, but we'll still be here in pocket for Tuesday's betting show. Should still be doing our DFS show weekly. Ron will have all of his content as usual, models, submodels, written content, all that stuff, all through the season, all through the swing season. Again, there's a lot of swing season events or whatever they call it now. And I don't really call it the swing season anymore. I don't know what the term is, but a lot of events continued on. And I want to remind folks, there's a fantastic deal going on right now. We have partnered with Rebet. Rebet is a sweepstakes betting DFS platform available in 46 states. So again, for the most part, other than it's Michigan, Montana, Idaho, and Nevada. Sorry, guys. Rebet not in your state, but it's a great way to, you can bet on golf there. Again, they don't call it betting. It's called sweepstakes. It's basically you buy Rebet cash, Rebet coins, which have a 1-for-1 coin dollar value. It's just, call it what it is. It's a loophole for these sites to find their way into the gaming space. Right now, you can go ahead and download Rebet, use promo code BSG. You can go to this article that I'm showing you here if you're watching on YouTube on the site. Click on this link. Again, it's going to take you to Rebet using the promo code BSG. Purchase $10 of Rebet cash. That's it, $10. If you want to play on the site a little bit more aggressively, they will match your first deposit up to $100. So deposit $100, they'll give you $200. But again, you can do it for just $10, and you will get, this is a limited time offer, a full year, calendar year, 12 months from the day at Betsperts Golf. So doing it now takes you through the entirety of next season, because we have one fewer week next year because of the Olympics. So this, if you buy now, you will get all of 2025 covered for literally $10, no additional charge. That's $250 on sale for just $10, basically, through our partner over at Rebet. So you have any questions, reach out to us on Twitter, DM us on the Betsperts Golf account. We will help you through any of that too. It does take about 48 hours or so. We have to get reporting from Rebet to let us know and verify that, and we get you your information on how to get access to it. So it takes a little bit of time to turn that around. But again, you will have it for all of the swing season and all of next year for just the cost of $10. And again, limited time offer that is going to expire here possibly very, very shortly, maybe by the end of the week. We only have a limited number of those to go out there. So people have been taking advantage of it. Don't miss out. $10 on Rebet, promo code BSG, full year of Betsperts Golf. I also want to show folks too, really excited about this. This is our player pages are up and live. They've been live for a couple of months. Again, click on any name in the rabbit hole and you will get a detailed player page breakout. And this is something that Ron has been absolutely grinding on to make this as accurate as possible. So again, yet another shout out to Ron for his work on the back end to make this as good as it could be. If you've seen, this is something we've had in the past. You get full, strokes breakdown. You can look at any of the views that you can look in the rabbit hole. You can look through this thing and get kind of rolling averages for players, looking at, how they perform on different putting surfaces, AM, PM splits, all these different things, course length, field strength, scoring conditions, rolling summaries. But we now have a finishing position summary that I want to show here. Again, this is something you can see if you're watching on YouTube, Betsperts Golf YouTube channel. Awesome stuff. And this is where, again, we're looking at Scotty. So you're looking at an alien that shows things that and has performances you won't see. Things that you will not find anywhere else, because you can find these things similar out there if you look. You're not going to find T30, T40 positions. You're not going to find made cuts. And one of the things that Ron did to capture the made cut stuff too, you can see here, this is giving you Scotty 19 starts, but 16 made cuts. Ron is hand filtered out the no cut events too, right? So this is actually giving you accurate made cut events in scenarios where made cuts are required, right? So it's capturing all this stuff here. You also get a 3-year rolling average down here as well. I mean, Scotty Scheffler over the last 3 years is winning 20% of the time he teases out, which is just absolutely bonkers. If you looked at anyone else's player page, he is T5 this year, 63% of the time. 84% of the time he is top 10ing. Again, that is, pulling out the made cut stuff too, or that is over there. And then T20, last 2 years, 90% of the time he is T20, which is just T20. That's just absolutely berserk stuff. So again, you want to, price out baseline prices for finishing positions. You can go ahead and do this. You can get rolling stuff. Again, you can go down here and get, results for tournament specific stuff as always too. But again, this is another nice little wrinkle here. I'm going to add another wrinkle to this, to the rabbit hole over the next couple of months. But Ron, anything you want to add here to the finishing summary?
Yeah, so if you bet on finishing positions, I think this especially is a great tool, like you said, just to kind of get a, yearly, and this is by calendar year. So this is not by PJ season. So we went ahead and did this, year by year. And yeah, I think even for DFS, obviously if you're playing on DraftKings, you get those finishing position points. And so those matter. And so, obviously this is going to correlate to strokes gained. But again, if you want another way to look at, upside ceiling performances, you'd be amazed. You start going through some of these guys and, you look at a Corey Connors, who he also is like a top 20 machine, but he just does not have the top 5, top 10 upside. And so, I think when you use this along with the data, the strokes gain stuff, I think both of these together are just really good to look at. And yeah, like you said, even starting on the bottom, looking at the 3 years and kind of getting a broad view and then comparing that to what they've done in their entire career, which you can see at the bottom line. We go back to 2016 with this and yeah, just seeing progression. You can obviously see Scotty just took an amazing jump year by year, actually, when you look at the numbers. And so just kind of look at the arc of how a player is either trajecting, upwards or downwards. So yeah, I think it's just another really cool tool that, like you said, nobody else has.
Absolutely love it too. And yeah, getting the back end stuff too. Like, like to bet, T30s, T40s, whenever we can, when the prices are right too. So getting kind of an understanding of how frequently guys are hitting there too. And again, you can click on anyone's name in the rabbit hole. You can search for players, just type in their player's name up here. You can find all that and get all of this data, again, with your Betsperts Golf subscriptions. Take advantage of that. So, all right, let's jump in and use the rabbit hole, model some of this stuff out a little bit. Unique events, again, just touching on some of the things that we think are still going to matter here. I think driving accuracy has always played an important role at success at East Lake. I think that's still going to be the case, Ron. Pretty narrow fairways. Interested to see how those things change and impact, like how frequently guys are going driver based on historically what they would do there is pretty, let's see, I don't know if we would classify it as driver heavy, but probably pretty close. I believe we had an driver percentage north of 80%, pretty long, rough with a pretty high missed fairway penalty. So, what do we think here in terms of, some of the things that we think are going to be sticky, relevant to what's happened here in the past with the renovations?
Yeah. So there's, it's obviously makes it a little trickier this year to a lot of the characteristics do remain the same. So, we could still obviously definitely look at, Bermuda Greens, Bermuda Rough. I think the key to performing well at East Lake pretty much remains the same, which is keeping the ball out of the rough. Looking at some of the changes I think they made around the greens, I think there's more collection areas, there's more short grass areas. So I think around the greens, those golfers who are maybe a little better with their short game, I think maybe get a little boost this year as well, because there's going to be a lot more variety as far as types of shots you can play and ways you can recover when you miss greens. But yeah, I think overall we're looking for, total driving. I think that's one of my big ones. Like you said, we'll look at miss fairway penalty off the tee. It is a bit of a longer course. I think you are going to get a little bit more run out with these new Zoysia fairways. So yeah, I think probably not digging too deep, but just kind of taking a broad perspective of, off the tee approach, maybe a little more emphasis around the green this week, and definitely Bermuda putting.
Okay. Like it. All right. So let's look first. We'll go into the filter by conditions. Let's look at very long course performance. We'll look at ball striking, I think is the right way to maybe capture this data. Let's bounce out to see what we get here. Last calendar year, all rounds. I'll see what we get, see how many rounds we're getting for that. Yeah, so it's right around 36, 40 rounds for most of these guys. Let's look at strokes gained, ball striking, because really, again, I think when we're looking at what we're trying to capture here is how you handle basically your first two shots. Xander, Scotty, Rory, top three in long. Again, we're ruling out the short courses by doing this, long and very long courses. Xander, Scotty, Rory, Ludwig, Finau, Hovland, Morikawa, Tom Hoagie. Interesting. We have Aaron Rai, Benny Ann, Shane Lowry here kind of rounding out. I have it by average. We can look at their ranking of this as well. That's kind of your top 12 of those guys. I think that's an interesting way to look at it to start. We'll do ball striking long, very long. And let's go to, let's see what else we want to do. You mentioned there. Let's do, well, we don't really know what to make of the scoring, right? I mean, scoring conditions is going to be a little bit challenging. Let's do some off the tee. You said off the tee, missed fairway penalty is going to be high. Yeah.
Let's keep that high for sure. It sounds like the fairways are going to have, pretty similar. I mean, these were the most narrow fairways on tour, and, throughout the past. And, I'm pretty sure from what I've seen, it looks like they're going to be a little bit wider, but not a lot. And so, yeah, this is going to be, it's always been like this at East Lake. You have to find the fairway off the tee in this Bermuda rough, especially you get this time of year. It's going to be quite penal. So,
yep. I like looking at ball striking again, because I think it's telling the same specific story. We're going to look at capturing around the green and on the green, I think in a different way based off of the feedback from Ron with the new shaved runoffs and the Bermuda putting. So we'll do it that way. I think ball striking here matters. Scotty at the top, Xander, Ludwig, Lowry, Hovland, Matsuyama, Sepp, Morikawa, Fleetwood, and Aaron Rai are your top 10 in ball striking. Let's I think last 6 months. Let's see. We'll go a little bit longer. Let's see if that sample changes. No, not really. Calendar year. That's going to probably bring in East Lake from last year, which I think is probably better. Yeah, changes it a little bit, but not too much. Russell Henley works his way in there. We'll look at that too. I think that's a great way to capture what we're looking at, because I think regardless, we're still going to have a high missed fairway penalty. All right. Making notes for myself. All right. Off the tee, you mentioned you want to look at total driving. We have a combination of, total driving combination of accuracy and distance. I think we want to probably capture both. We're definitely distance from the edge of the fairway guys. I think that's a significantly better stat, though pretty penal either way here. So let's look at distance off the tee the last 6 months. That matters a ton here. And again, this is different, right? When you kind of capture it and look at it, you see these red numbers, 30 guys in the field. I was looking at strokes gained total. You look at the red numbers, you look over the last 6 months, there's one guy, Matthew Pavone, is the only guy losing strokes total over the last 6 months, and it's like 0.05, right? So you got to kind of contextualize what you're looking at here comparatively. Like there's still, everyone pretty much is gaining strokes. But again, it's relative to the field, and that's what we have this week when we have a 30-man event, which is a little bit tricky. So distance here matters, and we'll look here this season. Benny Ann, Taylor Pendrith, Rory, Adam Scott, Wyndham Clark, Ludwig, JT, Finau, Burns, Sahith is your top 10 in distance here over the last 6 months. We're going to add driving distance. And I think what I always like to do is some sort of accuracy and distance from the edge of the fairway hybrid, where we're going to basically go 2-to-1 on edge of the fairway. Does you agree with that?
Yeah, for sure. I think, again, distance from the edge of the fairway, I think that's going to be my go-to pretty much every week. Whenever there's even a question of, rough or missed fairway stuff. Yeah.
Just better, guys. We touched on it all season long. Basically, when you miss the fairway, how much do you miss by, right? That can bring in first cut of rough. That can bring in, just barely in versus in the trees where you spray it. But driving accuracy, binary. Yes, no. Fairway, yes. Fairway, no. And that doesn't always tell you, I think, quite the story that you're actually trying to get by capturing some of that stuff. You can see there's some, correlation between guys that are good at both. You can see Russell Henley, first in accuracy, second in edge of the fairway. Scotty, top 5 in both. Aaron Rye, right there. But then you go down a little bit, you'll see some discrepancy. You saw kind of there briefly with Billy Horschel, for instance. Kind of a little bit of a discrepancy. So again, that gap is different now that we're in a 30-man field, but again, just I think the right way to look at it. All right. Approach. Any way to capture approach? Obviously, we have approach captured in a couple ways through the ball striking filters that we just did with missed fairway penalty and long courses. But anything you want to do, short-term approach, see who's just kind of hot recently. What do you want to do approach-wise?
Yeah, so for me, there's a few ways I'm going to do this, and I think this is one of the definite keys for success this week. So, first of all, East Lake is kind of a weird approach course when you look at the different ranges. So, 100 yards and in is like non-existent. Like it's one of the lowest courses on tour from 50 to 100 yards. But then you have the 100 to 150 buckets, and these are like well above average. And then you get to 150 to 200, and it's well below average. In fact, that range is one of the lowest on tour. And so then you get to 200 plus, and it's well above average again. And so you kind of got 100 to 150, and then 200 plus are the key ranges. And I mean, just doing the math here really quick, I mean, we're talking about it's over 60% just from those two areas. So I'm gonna actually try to isolate. I'll go 100 to 125, 125 to 150, and I'll throw in 200 plus and just kind of get. And I'm not going to weigh that too much because again, it's different for each golfer, but I'll throw those ranges in there. And then, secondly, I'm definitely going to take, since most of these guys obviously have played the last 2 weeks, or they have the last 2 weeks, I may just look at, approach over the last 8 rounds. And see kind of who's really hitting it good, here in the playoffs so far. And so I think, I think those are the main 2 ways. I think one other thing I might do that we have the ability at the Rabbit Hole is to just check the Bermuda rough box and look at proximity just from courses with Bermuda rough. And so, that is going to be something guys are going to have to play from this week for sure. And so I think, just seeing guys who have experience and have had success from this type of penal Bermuda, I think that's gonna show us something that maybe look for some edges there as well.
Nice. All right, let's look at that. This is rough surface Bermuda. We'll back out to a larger sample, and we'll look at just overall. You can look at rough green and regulation or rough proximity. Ron shouted out. So your top guys in rough proximity, you got Shane Lowry, Sungjae Im, Chris Kirk, Justin Thomas, Sam Burns. Again, guys that like call Florida home, right? Like Lowry, yes, is a Irishman, but he lives in Florida. Sanjay makes his home in Florida these days. Chris Kirk is a Southeast guy. JT's, Kentucky, Alabama. Sam Burns, Bermuda Burns for a number of years was the nickname. Ludwig here, Scotty Scheffler, Patrick Cantley, Victor Hovland, Bobby Mack rounding out your top 10.
And I even like to click on average to see, if anybody like does Shane, is he actually separate himself? And that's another just little thing you can do to check.
Yep.
And yeah, you can see they're pretty close together. But it's just another way to kind of view, if anybody has a sizable lead on anybody else.
Yeah, and it gets you an understanding of what the delta is from the top and the bottom too, right? Because I think that matters here a little bit. Makes, I think, modeling a little bit of a challenge this week because guys could be not super far off, but in terms of rank, they could be significantly further down the board. You could see it's not been good for Thigala per se, Morikawa, Horschel, Tommy, Akshay struggling a little bit as of late. Not been great for Seabez, Wyndham, but then it's not that big of a gap comparatively. So I think that's an interesting way to look at it. So we'll add the rough proximity. This is my challenge, especially in a place like this where, finding fairways is harder. It's hard to bucket out those ranges because then I need to capture, rough percentage as well. So that gets a little bit harder. So this is Bermuda rough proximity. Last 12 months. We'll go back to where you're saying I'm, for the sake of this, not going to do the ranges, but I think you make a good point. I think we probably want to look at that a little bit more. I'm just going to look at here. Let's go last 8 approach. Again, that's really short, but again, that's our last 2 playoff events. Hovland, Hideki, Hoagie, Tommy, JT, Horschel, Rye, Burns, Xander, Sanjay. Very interesting to not see Scotty Scheffler in there, who's scuffling a little bit. So we'll add approach, last 8 approach, and maybe go a little bit of a longer bucket. Say we'll go last 36 approach, just get a little bit more of a baseline. Return to normalcy, bigger sample is better. Last 36 approach. All right, let's bring in the around the green stuff. You mentioned, more shaved runoffs and collection areas, and that's a better challenge. I think that we all like watching that. I think it presents challenging these guys is hard to do, right? And we needed altitude and wind and elevation changes last week, but in normal setups where that's not the case, one of the things that can impact these guys is scrambling from the short grass when you don't have thick, rough aprons around the green that can help keep the ball. Guys can be more aggressive on approach shots that way. That changes the dynamic of what they're doing there. And then obviously picking it clean on, short grass is a little bit harder. So I think it shows a different skill set, whereas guys for the most part have to hit the same shot out of the rough, just off the green and around the green. This short grass stuff brings in a little bit more variance. So, and you want to look at that. Do you think we should highlight that just in general, or should we also look at Bermuda there as well?
Yeah, I think it's hard to tell because we haven't seen the course play out with this this new style around the green. So yeah, I think taking a broader perspective, looking at everything, is still probably beneficial. Now, but I will say this: just whether around the green and putting, both of those have historically not correlated as much with winning here and having success as the ball striking, and so. I still think it's good to look at it, especially with this year and obviously with a small field and looking for every edge you can find. So I'd still look at it overall and definitely will look at Bermuda putting after.
Awesome. All right, we're going to add just overall scrambling short grass. Last 36 rounds. And if you're ball striking, and you're cooking with gas, it won't matter as much. I want to let's just look at baseline, who's rolling it well, say the last 16. Smaller sample, just your baseline putting, strokes gain putting last 16. And then we're going to go with a bigger sample out. We'll go all rounds, last 12 months. and we're going to bucket out the green surfaces as Bermuda and see who's got a better Bermuda baseline. See if we get, that's a decent sample for guys. Kind of right on the cusp of sample size that I like to look at. It's a little smaller for some guys. Let's back out. Let's just look 2 years. Give it a nice big sample. We got short-term putting in here. Sam Burns is your best putter on Bermuda. Ludwig Oberg, Billy Horschel, Matthew Pavone, Xander Schauffele, Victor Hovland, Wyndham Clark, Patrick Cantley, Russell Henley, and Tom Hoagie are your top 10 Bermuda grass putters over the last 2 years. Let's see the bottom of this. And let's just look at the average here so we can get a better sense of how much they're losing strokes. All right. Justin Thomas, Scotty Scheffler losing strokes comparatively, right? Pretty good gap between them and everyone else on Bermuda the last 2 years. Tony Finau, Colin Morikawa, Aaron Rai, Hideki. Those guys are also kind of, losing a little bit more. Not a ton, right? If you were to compare this to what we would see over the course of 156 guys in a big field, it's not just big, bright red stay away numbers, which is, I think, important context for this week. But again, your actual good putters are getting it done. Let's take a look at what we're actually seeing here. Right, Sam Burns separating himself comparatively on these surfaces. So, still Oberg gaining over a half stroke. Billy Horschel not too far behind. So again, I think this is a good week to look at average versus just rank, so you can get an understanding of what the actual delta between these numbers are. So we're going to add Bermuda putting. This is last 2 years. Get a good sense of that. You could also look at strokes gained short game. You could look at, with Bermuda, you can look at scrambling Bermuda, which is kind of going to capture both of it. I think scrambling can be a little bit noisy, obviously, because it's tying both in, and it's not capturing the splits of the grass surface. I mean, it has the surface, but in terms of like rough or short grass. So you can make the case that there's good and bad in doing it that way. So anything else I'm missing you want to capture here before we call it a wrap?
I'll always look at par 4 scoring here at East Lake. I know they added a par 5, so it's a par 71 this year. So the 14th hole is a par 5 now, plays downhill. But yeah, I think par 4 scoring has always proven to be key. And so yeah, I'll probably look at birdie or better percentage just to capture some scoring here.
All right, Scotty, Burns, Pendrith, your top 3 and birdie or better rate on par 4s over the last 6 months. Hoagie, Wyndham Clark, Xander Schauffele, Victor Hovland, Hideki, Sanjay, Shane Lowry round out your top 10 there, which I think is interesting to see. We'll go the other way. Not a lot of bird. Tommy is, get him on hard tracks, grind out pars. Birdies are not his thing, but again, you can see the gap. It's pretty much Matthew Pavone telling us definitely 30 of 30 in this field, basically in any statistical measurement. A pretty good gap between him and the rest of the guys. Not a huge gap between even, we are Fleetwood and guys that are much higher up on the list. So I think, again, looking at this as context is pretty important. But, Scotty, pretty much a full percentage point above everyone else. All right, this is par 4. BOB. And I think it gives us a good look. Let's take a look here. Create mixed condition model. I didn't clear anything. Let's see what I have. I don't know if I got it. All my other garbage out. Sorry if I didn't, folks. Buzz through. Yeah, got all last week's, of course. Usually more prep. Took my 3-year-old to kindergarten for the first time this morning. Spent time consoling my wife. So preparation a little bit different today. Here we go. Jump in here. We started with long and very long ball striking. These are the metrics that we have. So this is our East Lake first look. We'll start here. I think these are the important things. We'll start with a bigger box up here. Some of these other guys. Driving distance, I think, matters a ton. Distance from the edge of the fairway, we would do it this way a little bit more than driving accuracy. I know we don't want to do too much on putting. What do you think? I mean, you don't want to do too much on short game or short grass. So we'll go. Let's just bucket this here. We'll go 3, 3, 4. We'll kind of give 10 to short game. We're going to give more on the ball striking stuff. Let's go Bermuda rough proximity. We go 7.5. We'll go 10 here, 10 here. Where are we at? Oh, we got a little bit to play with. So we'll get maybe a little bit here. This is the beauty of this. I love that we don't have to do the math in our head anymore. That was a huge piece for us. We'll go distance from the edge of the fairway. We'll give it the respect it deserves. All right. I like it. On the fly. Save it as an expert. Again, if you're looking at this for the first time, you can download any of these stat buckets into a CSV. There's a view expert ranking section where you can see other folks in their models as well. You can see some other folks that have already made some. Andy Lack, Matt Vicenzi, other folks in the content space. Their podcasts are fantastic. You can see their models here as well. You'll see stuff from Ron later in the week, our guy Andy Molitor. Let's see what our first look model is. All right. No surprise. The top two, Scotty Scheffler, Xander Schauffele, Hovland third, Ludwig fourth, Shane Lowry fifth, Tom Hoagie 6, Patrick Cantley 7, Aaron Rye 8, Hideki 9, and Tony Finau 10. No super surprises here. Let's look at the back end of it. Again, Matthew Pavone does not surprise me. The Zayden Hoot, Thigala, Kirk, Akshay, Bobby Mack are your bottom of the barrel here. No real surprises here, Ron. I guess maybe Shane Lowry in the top 5. What are your takeaways?
Yeah. Shane's been playing some good golf. He played a little better than I thought he would, in those long walking conditions in Colorado. So, I think there's obviously no surprise at the top. One thing I was going to say that I just actually realized last week is I don't know if you click on the download CSV, I don't know if you have Excel capabilities on here. Mm-hmm. But if you go back to the model and click on just download, to the actually when you're on the model page, and if you click on the download CSV, you can actually see a total. And so, Scotty's number 1, but this will show you by ranking points how far of a lead he has on Xander. It basically puts it all in there. And so, when you anyone who wants to look at that, if that's something I always wanted to be able to calculate, and it's something I do in my own personal model, but I didn't even realize that we had the ability to show kind of, separation between players. And so, that's something for those of you who, who have that capability, just really cool to look at, because I think that's one thing that ranking systems kind of don't have is you can't see separation a lot of times. But yeah, we have the rabbit hole. We have the ability to kind of take a look at that. So yeah, there you can see on the total, that column there will show you that, so you can kind of see Scotty and Xander with kind of a big lead, and it kind of drops down pretty rapidly after you get past Ludwig. So yeah, just another feature that we have.
Yep. Love that call out. It does, see a pretty sizable drop, as you said there. It's kind of the top 4. And then you're down to Lowry, who's, basically you would call that the same tier with, the next 10 guys on the list. Right. So, pretty good drop off and good way to look at that. So good call out. Yeah. The CSV feature is fantastic, to be able to kind of go through that, and, easier way to kind of search through too, and understand, all right, what were those statistics too? Again, if you're just looking at it through the other way, you can hover on the icon and see any of that as well, but that does give you an idea of where there's a gap, and if anyone who's, banking on course history, and maybe, again, we haven't seen it. So if it does matter, Xander has that advantage over Scotty for sure, based off of how they've played in the past. So good stuff as always, Ron. Appreciate that. Again, want to make sure you are hanging out with us. Subscribe to the Betsperts Golf podcast, anywhere you listen to podcasts, Betsperts Golf on YouTube. Again, we'll continue on with the betting show, DFS show, Monday First Look show. My football load is gets heavy this time of year, so that's a little bit harder for me to jump in. And this is something that we will definitely pick up. This is a new show for us this season. We'll pick up when we get back to January and flip the calendar for the century and all those different things. But again, want to remind folks, take advantage of the Rebet deal. It is an absolutely fantastic deal to get access to everything that we do for $10. Again, information in the show notes. If you have questions, reach out to us directly. We appreciate everyone hanging out with us all season long. Let's get home a winner. Let's look for those without markets. Maybe we can attack something a little bit there. Maybe there's a Shane Lowry look. Maybe there's if you could stomach going back to Ludwig after a little bit of an up and down Sunday for him, there could be something there. Or it's just Scotty and Xander run away with it and we're all just chasing our tails. So good stuff as always. Again, head over to the site, betspertsgolf.com, read Ron's preview on everything going on at Eastlake, get more understanding of the renovation and what we're looking at this year, because it is a little bit different. So appreciate everyone hanging out with us. For Ron, I'm Ryan. We'll see you all next time. Thanks for hanging out with us, everyone.